Welcome back to another podcast. Sat next to me, very special guest, Liam Knight. What is the message?
Follow your dreams, brother.
Follow your dreams. What an opening. What an opening line. Knighty, you're obviously just landed in the UK a couple of weeks now, here at Hull FC. Talk to me. What's it been like so far since you got on English soil?
Mate, it's been a wild month. I think it's been about a month now. So loving it. Love my time over here. Took a couple of days to adjust. You know, the cold lungs. Cold lungs took a while to stop rattling around. But mate, my third day here, I was doing a Bronco 1.2. So that was
straight in the deep end.
Straight in the deep end. Yeah, do your best. That rattled me for a couple of days. But mate, it's been awesome. It's been fun. It's a great club, good bunch of boys. So just hit the ground running.
Enjoying yourself so far. So talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously, bit of a whirlwind experience getting yourself over here. What was the process of like between being in Australia, sat at home, to obviously putting on the black and white shirt for the first time? Talk to us about those few weeks.
Bro, it was crazy, right? So I think the whole journey was out of nowhere. Like I was on a trip away with the missus down the south coast of Sydney. On the Saturday, I get a call out of nowhere. Like I wasn't talking to any club. On the Saturday, I get a phone call. Mate, there's an opportunity to go to Hull FC. Are you keen? I said, yeah, 100%. Let's go through it anyway. So that was a Saturday. On the Tuesday night, 3 days later, I was on a plane. Gone. So packed all my stuff up in about 2 hours on the Monday because I was like, Saturday, would you go? Yep. Okay. Sunday, okay, mate, we're going to sign a deal. I was thinking, this is a joke, bro. Boom, signed the deal like electronically. Monday, okay, we're going to book your flight for tomorrow. I was like, oh, I better pack. Packed 2 suitcases. Tuesday night, I was on a plane, gone.
And that's it. And you're over in England.
And then I'm there, and then I'm in a Bronco.
And 3 days later, thanks for coming. Yeah. Thanks for coming. And then obviously, at that stage, when you're back home, you're not really looking for a deal. What's on your mind? What's going through your head? Like, are you thinking, I want to keep playing? Or what are you thinking about at that stage of your career?
At that stage, I had sort of thought I was, in all seriousness, I was about to retire. I was thinking, because in December, I thought I was going to come over to the Super League for another club. All fell over. A couple of things just fizzled out, didn't work out. So I'm thinking, I was still training, working the job, train in the morning, work, training the Arvo, just on repeat. Thinking, I want to stay fit. I've got plenty of footy left in me, so I just got to stay ready. But at that stage, I was like, the week before, I haven't really told anyone. I called the guy up from South, Sonny. He's a media manager there. I said, hey, mate, can I get a few photos and videos? I'm going to put a bit of a post up. I'm just retired from footy.
That's crazy.
5 days later, I get a call on the Saturday. Would you go to Hull FC? I went, 100%. Mate. And that was it. Crazy, bro.
No brainer. And I think that proper sums up the roller coaster, doesn't it? In a nutshell, that sums up this sport. And sometimes when all the doors look shut, all of a sudden something opens up for you and you're like, okay, you have to jump at the opportunity, don't you?
100%. If you stay ready, you never know. So I was just lucky that I just, kept training and kept working. And so I come over here, I wasn't underdone. Obviously I had no pre-season with the team, but been training pretty hard. So the first week was a bit of a lung buster.
Straight in the Bronco, killing you.
I mean, the first game, bro, I was obviously, you can train as hard as you want, but it's like footy fitness and normal fitness is a different game. So we played against the Lee Leopards, and I was out on my feet 3 minutes in. I was just sucking in this 4-degree air.
Sucking in the seagulls, lungs getting burnt off you on the way in as well.
Bro, it was crazy. And I was going on the field and we had 11 players. We got 2 sin bins and I was thinking, my first stint, we're going 11 players on the
so
field.
that those 10 minutes or so are absolute, you are on your arse in the middle. For people who've not played or are just listening to this, if you go down to 12 men, that is a 10 minute, the boys are looking at each other we have to go here.
Yeah.
11 men, that is all out scramble mode. You're getting stripped everywhere. You're just thinking, and if you're in the washing machine in the middle of the park as a forward, you're just thinking, what on earth is going on here?
I was just laughing, man. I was on the sideline thinking, how good is this? 11 players, let's go. First game, 6 months.
Stuck straight into it, straight into it. So come here, tell us a little bit about, obviously, you're back at home. Before we go into, obviously, your whole career, you're back at home, you're doing a little bit of work. So what does that day look like when you're trying to stay fit before you're thinking of hanging up the boots or before you even end up over here? Tell us a little bit about the working life and how you're trying to stay on top of everything with the potential of obviously trying to get a deal.
So probably normal day up at 5 a.m. either do a mixture. I was working with a sprint coach named Roger Fabry.
Yeah, he's pretty popular, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
a lot of the boys use him.
Very good operator. Love that guy. He was helping me out. I was trying to get a bit of pace, get a bit of exposure to high speed meters. Not too much high speed in the middle of the field. So doing that twice a week. That was 5 a.m. start, up in the morning, go do that, go to work, finish that, either do a weights, a big weighted walk, all that kind of stuff. That was sort of every day, either mix up a session in between, go to work for 8-9 hours, and that was enjoyable. That's what I thought I was just going to progress into the next stage of life. But yeah, like I said, always had that thought in the back of the mind just to continue playing footy. Got to keep hustling, got to keep working. So it was big days.
It was big days for sure. And tell us a little bit about your work life. Like, obviously, you're a very clever man, like not just a brute force machine in the middle of the park. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that, mate. I was working with a property investment group called Wealth Street. They sort of specialise in house and land packages and help the average punter, sort of structure their investments and that kind of stuff, build some wealth in their family and be better off in the long run.
Savage. And do you feel like you'll drop back into that whenever?
Yeah, I love property investing. All that kind of world is really, the corporate world of that was it was fascinating. So that was it was interesting. I liked it.
Keeps you busy, I suppose. When the mind's probably thinking, what am I going to do here? Especially when you're out of contract, you're probably thinking, what am I going to do? So it keeps you busy through your day, I suppose, and gives you a little bit of structure. So you it's sort of like being in like a cup environment or a championship environment where you train in the morning potentially, or get a gym session done early, work all day, and then train again in the evening.
Yeah, it was awesome exposure for sure. Like, I know when I was playing footy, sort of 25, 26, maybe 27, you're thinking like, well, like obviously not playing footy forever, but what am I going to do after footy? Oh, it'll come one day, don't worry about it, I'll just get there. And then like, say you turn 29, 30 and footy's sort of like at a crossroads, couple average years, and you're thinking, mate, what's next? So I was lucky to get that exposure, and they gave me a good crack.
Awesome stuff. So tell us a little bit about obviously the journey from a young lad. You came through the Manly setup.
Yeah.
Talk us through that. Like, obviously growing up, was footy always your dream? Was it always what you wanted to do, or was it something that you sort of fell into?
Yeah, I think I don't know when it started becoming a dream. Obviously, when you're younger, you're just playing for fun. I think I started playing when I was 8. Played rugby first.
What position were you in rugby union?
I can't even remember. I was 8 years old.
Just smashing.
Yeah, just give me the ball and run. Yeah. And then sort of played league at about 10. I was like, oh, mate, this is the best. Like, I love league. From maybe about 12, 13, you start thinking, like, you start watching TV, like all these guys playing on TV in the NRL, thinking, like, that's what I want to do. Man, I don't know how you're going to do that. Just keep playing footy. I moved around a lot, so I was changing my environment a lot, but footy was the one thing that just like was the mainstay. A lot of change in life. And then about 15, 16, start making a few rep teams and then thinking, oh, this could be a little bit of a thing. And then sign a deal with Manly when I was 15. I think it was a 3-year contract, thinking like, I've made it. Like, this is it. And then you think, oh, no, I haven't done anything. Like, Harry Matt's under 16s, 18s, 20s, went through the whole system. Made my NRL debut at 21 after a bit of trouble off the field, which was a bit of an interesting time. But then, mate, yeah, it was a wild time.
Crazy. And do you feel like... obviously, reflecting on those early years, do you feel like, and you mentioned getting in a bit of trouble off the field, do you feel like going through that had shaped you throughout your career and obviously impacted you in the sense that you probably learned a lot from being naive and believing that you made it so young? Yeah,
for sure. I think if I'm summing up my career, and especially as a man, like I went like this, I reckon, like it'll go really well, and then you sort of slip away from habits and standards and stuff. So then, I don't know, a bit of a roller coaster in that sense. Like, away from footy, where I probably struggled the most. I probably was a bit loose and took a lot of things for granted. Young kid, didn't have the strongest like role models in my life looking back, and just like I fell away a lot of times. And I was lucky enough to at certain points meet people that sort of pulled you back into the right thing, the right way of living. And football was, like I said, the biggest equaliser for that. So you meet these people that, they live in different worlds and they're so driven, and you get to see other things in life. But yeah, it was a big, it's just been the biggest learning curve, I think. Absolutely. I think on that, it's important to mention as well that people don't realise how easy it is to slip away. People think just because you're a full-time athlete that it's so easy to stay on track. When if anything, it's sometimes a double-edged blade, because you're full-time, it's your job, it's awesome, you're literally living the dream, you're living most people's dream, but the other edge of the blade that people don't see is you have so much time to spend inside your own head and so much time to, like you said, get yourself in trouble. Because like when you're on your days off or when you're not training, like obviously when you probably should be doing the right thing, should be recovering, it's so easy to slip away now, isn't it? 100%, yeah. And like I said, like I don't know, I struggled probably more away from footy. When I'm at footy, everything's perfect. When I go home, you got all this time to think and well, what can I do? And I got a bit, I don't know, ADHD or whatever's going on. You're like, I'll just try this. And you start, I reckon slipping slowly and slowly. You make one bad decision. You're like, oh, so like I made so many mistakes as a young kid, and I kept making them like on and off. Switch on, switch off, and then I think when you start making your habits start slipping, that becomes like a habit of making bad habits, and you can just get lost real quick. I think for a few years I was so up and down with all of that. So like looking back and reflecting, it definitely when you have more time on your hands, if you're not like structured and regimented, it can definitely be a downfall.
For sure. And speaking to your younger self now, what would you say?
I think it's you don't have as much time as you think. Like I don't know. Like
you think the career's infinite, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll be all right. Or also, when you're younger, I don't think when you're young and full of it, you got this ego. Like I'll always be sweet. Like I'm fit, this that. Like so, I'll miss a session here, miss one there. But obviously, if you weigh it up, how many you're actually missing or pushing off or procrastinating, like you don't have as much time as you think. Like maximize every day. Like I'd just probably say, take your life more seriously. Your career is this long. And I've seen people, you see all the top players every day. They're consistent every single day, regardless of how they feel, and that's why they're at the top of the game for so long. I definitely wish I took it, more seriously, and then I developed stronger habits throughout my career. So I sort of only figured that out at the back end of my career. I was just like, I want to have fun, enjoy it, and didn't take it as serious as I would have liked to back then. So yeah, just maximize your days and maximize yourself.
Hey, it's all learning though, isn't it? It's all learning. So
for sure.
You come through the Manly system.
Yeah.
Went to Roosters for a bit, and then you ended up at the Bunnies.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was that transition like from obviously coming through as like a player? When you're coming through a system, like obviously I came through the Huddersfield system. When you're at your first kind of club, it's a little bit but it's a little bit different. It's everything you know. I feel like that's probably that's probably where maybe your ego, your arrogance, or just maybe the ignorance of things sort of slips in. Like obviously when I was at Huddersfield, it's everything you know. And I think as a young person, getting that switch up and getting that change is probably the most beneficial thing. Because for me in my career, coming through Huddersfield, obviously being in the first team environment but then dropping into going to Canberra, seeing a different way of living, seeing a completely different system, different coaching, different faces, and then obviously I came back to Huddersfield. Having that experience to go through, I felt like it really shaped my career because I needed to taste the different fruit in order to actually go, right, this is how it should be. Whereas when you're in that environment that you've just come through your whole life, like complacency can slip in. So you left Manly, you went to the Roosters, then you went to the Bunnies. Tell us a little bit about that. And you spent that was probably the first decent chunk of your career at the Bunnies.
Yeah, I think leaving Manly, I struggled a lot more than I thought I would. I didn't realise, like for myself, never had the strongest family base. I had a bit of a difficult upbringing, and Manly was like that family base for me. So I was there for so long and felt like I didn't even realise at the time I was so young, 21, like that was like my support network in a way, like the family base. I left that at the time with the Roosters on a good deal. 21, ego chipped back up, thinking I was, killing it, bulletproof. Making a few bad decisions off the field, a bit loose, not exactly taking that seriously. And I signed a 3-year deal at the Roosters, and in 7 months they were like, "Yeah, you should go," kind of thing, like knock on the door, pushing me out the door. I was thinking, sign a deal in Canberra. I was there for 18 months. Then I remember sitting in Canberra like, how did I get here? Like thinking, because at the time you think you're right, you think you're making the right decisions, and like, you're pointing fingers at, he's picking on me or whatever it was, and then you got to sit there and be like, I've done this to myself. Like I took this for granted, and I had to really reflect and sit there and like, no one's gonna help me get out of this. Like it's gonna work or it's not gonna work, but it's all gonna come down to me. So I remember sitting in Canberra, just slowly building myself back up and playing a few NRL games at Canberra, and then opportunity came to go to the Bunnies. And I remember there's a few players in that team, like specifically Sam Burgess, who was like an idol of mine growing up. I was like, well, I'm going to play with Sam Burt. And Wayne Bennett was the coach. And I was like, well, I'm going to play with Sam. I was like 23 going, I don't even care what the money is. Let's go to South. Like, and Wayne was there, and it was an unbelievable experience. And I think the senior player group with Sam, Tom, Reno, Cody, and John Sutton, like the group there were really tight, and they really helped me. They pulled me in. Like, I felt a part of the family, which was always big for me. And from that moment, it just sort of, it really changed my life in so many positive ways.
Do you feel like obviously that family structure, that structure of support network that was probably missing when you left Manly, went to the Roosters, went to Canberra, didn't probably settle there as much as you would have liked? When you got to South, you felt like that was there for you?
Yeah, for sure. That was like not something you're obviously conscious about when you're that old. When I was a bit younger, a bit unaware and a bit naive and all that kind of stuff. When looking back, I'm like, I just remember feeling like I feel like I come in and be myself at all times of the day, and you don't understand how important that is, especially as a young guy. Like you can just. You come into a comfortable environment, like you rip and you work hard and then you have a bit of fun and you can just, be yourself and you feel accepted and all that kind of stuff. And that, like, looking back was, the biggest thing for me. And I felt like I flourished and I had the best time off the field, which really transferred to my time on the field. And it was a massive role in my life.
And they do say that when you're like happy, when you're happy away from footy, you're going to be happy with what you're playing and you're going to perform well because you're comfortable and confident with what you're doing. It's huge. It's huge for any player, especially as a young athlete. Tell us a little bit about that. Obviously, from NRL debut to stacking a couple games to then going to South with like you said, your role model, going with Big Sammy Burgess, who's arguably is the best front rower in the game at the time. You're learning off him. You're in that positive environment, and you're looking up to someone who practices off the field what he does on the field as such.
Yeah, my NRL debut was make my NRL debut, break my foot in 30 seconds, bang, back off the mountain, like instant roller coaster. I'm out for a little bit, change clubs, didn't play a single game of first grade for 18 months after my NRL debut. It was just in shambles. Started playing at the Canberra, back up on the roller coaster, back to South, boom. And like you said, when I saw all that environment, it was so different for me. Like someone like Sam, who is superstar status, but like he treats everyone exactly the same. Doesn't matter where you are in life. Like even on the street, walking past people on the street, hey, how you going, mate? Like it was just like, I don't know. It was a big eye opener of how a real leader like acts in life. And then on the training standards, like I don't know, when we were growing up, there's certain clubs, like everyone's like, oh, don't train too hard. Like, there's that one guy that goes really hard at training, and it's like everyone sort of looks down at him because no one wants to train that hard. They call him like test match trainer, or like, oh, stop carrying on. Like no one wants to, like just relax. Like Sam was the same guy. He's flogging people at training, and like no one's going to say anything to him. So it's like, that's a standard kind of thing. So like he really instilled in me the necessary training mentality. Like how you train is how you play. You can't just expect to get to a game after having a soft week of training and then like turn it on. You might do it 1 week, you might do it 2 weeks, but a long season, like that's the standard of training, is like, going after it and really holding yourself to a high standard.
For sure, you practice. That's what the Americans call it, practice, isn't it? Because you're practicing for that game, you're replicating what you're doing,
right.
And if you don't go hard, it's difficult. Like C's always telling these stories. Obviously, you've been living with him since you come over. You're playing with him at FC. He's always telling these stories because I think I kicked out of training when I was a young kid, smacked him in the face, and he just flogged me. I think he just pushed me or whatever. But he was what you doing. But then he always laughs about it afterwards because like that's just who I was, and it's just. It's funny because people do call you test match, don't they?
Yeah.
But it is important. It is important to go hard, isn't it? And those training standards, I think they marry out into the rest of life, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's all. I think it's all about the habits you build. Like you're rocking up at training every day. It's like you're gonna have different moments. Different turbulent, even emotional responses in life. Things going on. It's like it doesn't. Wayne Bennett always dropped this into us. Like, boys, you don't have to feel good to train good. You don't have to feel good to play good. I don't care how you feel. I care how you perform. Like, if you're going to think you're coming to training every day in a pre-season, especially during the year, niggles, you're going to think you're going to come to training and feel good every day. You guys are laughing. You're in the wrong industry. Go work at Macca's or something like that. Like, once you're here, doesn't matter. Like, you're men. Like, you just get on the field and you just got to train well. Like,
got to deliver.
That's all. Just simplify it. And that's the thing, like you kind of come into training, the habits you build when you feel sick, you feel tired, you feel sore, doesn't really matter. Like you can still perform at a level that is acceptable. And if you give yourself that excuse, you're going to take it. So that's like, he just always drummed into us. He had all these references. Like, you think guys in World War II used to wake up in the trenches and think, I don't want to go fight the Germans today because I'm a bit tired.
didn't get good bit REM sleep. No deep sleep. Yeah.
No, my whoops that I had any.
red recovery. That day off today.
Yeah, so he just always dropped in. Don't give yourself an out. And that sort of he just hummed that home and sent that message, and that was obviously a massive learning curve. Like,
do you think he was the best coach you've ever had?
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of, is it the man management or is it just the delivery of, or is it just that aura? Is it the aura?
Yeah, definitely the aura, but I think he just put things into perspective. And as a mentor, like a coach, I think he's a powerful mentor. You know, what you can't challenge, you can't really like, whatever Wayne says, he just hits home. I don't know what it is. Like he just, whenever someone's feeling he feels the energy of the group and he just reacts accordingly. And like, see, we don't walk in there thinking, oh, but like if the energy's down, I remember a couple of times in pre-season here and there, like big couple week blocks and everyone's a bit busted and you can feel the energy. So he must have shifted. He must have felt the energy shift and he gets in the meeting. I can't even remember what he says, but I remember everyone walked into this meeting in the morning pretty tired. And we left that meeting like can't wait to go and train. Like it was unbelievable. Like, and they say he hit the mark every time. So as a mentor, like as a motivator, I think there's no one better.
And do you feel obviously when you're coming through your career, you're getting a bit older by the time that you get to South, do you think as someone who maybe was a bit lost and had that loose nature, do you think having someone like him as a role model was important for you to guide you through that stage of your career and obviously try to build a bit of momentum when you were there?
Yeah, for sure. And I think he just instills belief in players. I think that's probably the most important thing. Like I said, I was a bit lost and I was, didn't really know who I was or what I really needed to do or wanted and that kind of stuff. First thing he said to me day one, he goes, because I was, had a bit of a reputation about being loose and I was off-field things here and there. He goes, I don't really care about what you've done in the past. I just care about what you do next. So you get to decide every day who you want to be and what kind of man you want to be. And if you want to be this man, you're in this team and I want you in my team. But if not, you can go as well. And I was like, that's the biggest thing as a young kid, I think, like the belief that he just put in me from the start. And he goes, don't ruin it, earn your stripes every day. And that was massive.
And anybody within sport needs, one, a coach who backs them, and two, that someone who actually holds them accountable and honest to what they say. Because there's nothing worse. I think we've all been in environments where somebody says they're going to hold you accountable or says this is our standard, and you watch that double standard get looked over all the time. And because I think that's the quickest way to lose a group if you're under someone. But if you actually have those coaches, and I've had those coaches when I've played, and they go, if you do this and you deliver on this, I'm going to hold you accountable to it. And if you do that, you're going to be in my team. You're going to be in my 17 every week, and you're going to be the player that you want to be. But when that standard is said and then upheld, it's a completely different place to when it's a bit of a double standard. You watch things slip, and then it's the same it's different for one person than it is for the other. Because that's the quickest way to lose a group, isn't it?
You would have seen that in teams, like the coach exactly says that, and then obviously there's a couple people maybe in the leadership group or whatever it is. They don't get held accountable, but they spray everyone else. I think Wayne was harder on the leaders. Like he was harder on Sam, he was harder on Reno and Cookie and all those other boys. He was harder on them because I think they're in a position where they can't get have plays off and days off. So that was the thing. If you're watching a whole group be accountable, you're like, well, obviously everyone's buying. You can't question that. There's no room to be like, you can't point the finger. It's all on you, and it makes that in perspective. Like it's all on you. You got to get yourself out of bed. You got to get yourself ready for games. You got to come to training with the right attitude.
For sure. Everything that we do in this game as well, it all comes down to little choices that we make on the daily.
That's exactly right.
Little choices, and it seems repetitive. It seems cliche when you say it out loud, but at the end of the day, it's the things that when you stack those little wins, they make up the big things within this sport, within this career, within the 80 minutes that you're on the pitch. It's the little things like the little movement that you do if you just keep tying and keep moving your feet. Those little things just keep on stacking. So after South, go to the Dogs.
Yeah.
Just prior to coming over here, we're almost there.
I know, we're almost there. The last couple of years at South were a bit of a grind. I had a few bad head knocks, missed pretty much most of the season. At the end of that season, had 3 surgeries, had shoulder reco, hip reco, ankle clean out, come off the back of like a massive pre-season, just purely in rehab most of the time. Rehab for 5 months, all the injuries, and they came back. Obviously steady, getting there. Then I just started playing. I got a bit of form, felt confident, got my knee cannonballed out, did my ACL. So that was another mountain to climb. And that was sort of the second last year at South. My last year at South, I came back from a knee, started playing first grade, sort of fell out with the coach a little bit. That was 2023. Was it 2023? What year are we in? Yeah.
25 now.
23, yeah. So that sort of fizzled out. My last year at South was a bit disappointing for myself. I wish I handled a few things better. And then that led me to the Dogs. Had an opportunity to finish the season there, play first grade. went to the Dogs there, played the last 7 games or something, 6 games in the first grade team, and then signed for the next year. And that was just another bit of an up and down year for me. Plenty going on off the field.
Riding the roller coaster.
Riding the roller coaster.
But being able to reflect on it now and obviously learn from those lessons and those mistakes potentially.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing for you coming over here, and obviously getting the whole striking a bit of form straight away and feeling probably good about yourself. Do you feel like battling those off-field demons has been something that you've learned how to overcome, and obviously as well as like being riddled as far with head knocks, injuries and surgeries, do you reckon that contributed to maybe the off-field issues?
Yeah, I think I like I said, I always struggled away from footy. When you get to footy, like that's the thing that always kept me whole and kept me sane. And then away from footy, I just, maybe a few things, like a few demons I never addressed throughout my life and that kind of stuff. I just struggled away. Last few years in particular, I did a lot of work and, worked on a lot of those things and sort of come out the other side. I think when I left the Dogs, like the last 6 or 7 months, not playing footy, I thought I was done. I didn't like the year. When you're not involved in the team, it's a bit. When you're not in the first grade team, it's obviously you don't like it. You don't enjoy it. You don't, like everyone's doing the same training. You flog yourself, but if you're not playing that top division that you want to play in, and it's not as enjoyable. And the team was going really well, so that was awesome to see that. But watching those guys have so much fun, you want to be involved in it. So that's a hard one, and I think I sat down like, I think I'm done. Like, my body's a bit sore. Not that it wasn't actually sore. You start telling yourself excuses like, I'm pretty much done. And then it actually ends up, you finish up and then you sit with that, you go, I don't know. I was just a bit, I had this feeling of like, I just want to play so bad. I won't take it for granted. Like, I come to Hull now, just enjoy every moment, like, and do as much, and maximise my days like I always wanted. And just don't pass up the opportunities, every day trying to do the best.
Without a doubt, because it goes so quickly. And I think that all of a sudden, without even realising it, your career's flying by. Like this year I'm turning 25. I cannot fathom my head that I'm going to be 25 years old, because I never believed that I could get that old. Do you know what I mean? When I was like 18, 19, 20, coming through, starting to like get a feeler for what being in the pro game was like, I never thought I could get to 25, because that's like middle of a lot of people's careers then all of a sudden, and I just start feeling I'm taking a step back now, and I'm going, Jesus, I'm feeling so old now, and it's crazy.
25.
25. It's crazy though. You laugh at it now, but it's probably gone like that between then and now. You obviously mentioned there, and I think something that a lot of players listening, a lot of people listening to would maybe go through. But you said like obviously searching for those role models and those people to keep you on the straight and narrow. Obviously, you feel like you may not have had that as much growing up. I feel like a lot of people would be in the same spot. I feel for myself personally, growing up and becoming involved in pro level sport, I never had someone necessarily to look to. My path was very much uncarved. My family have always been like very supportive of me. I have a lot of aunties and my mum back home, and everyone's very, very supportive of me. But I never had like that person like that had walked that path before, or even been on a professional journey prior, or even been involved at high level sport. Yeah. My uncle played a bit of football. If he's listening, he's probably going to be gutted, because as a young fella, I probably thought he played for Man United, but he played a bit of football, but nothing major, nothing elite. I never had even anyone in the vicinity of me within my network of rugby union coaches growing up, rugby, like no one who'd ever like performed at that elite level. And obviously, on my journey, talking about myself a little bit here, but on my journey, being the second ever homegrown Irish player to play in the Super League, like the first person to properly come through an academy, like that was an unwalking road. So I feel like I want this platform, and I want myself to be a role model for younger kids, but it's difficult, isn't it, when you don't necessarily have that person that you can look to and go, I look up to you. Because I look up to my mum so much, but that's not anything to do with her athletic ability or her discipline within the gym, nutrition-wise, training. It's just her as a person. But you still need somebody to sort of like look up to. And for me, this may sound mad, but that was YouTubers. Yeah. I especially when I was going on my journey of rugby union, and I was trying to make it pro in rugby, and I had to take a year out. I turned to like gym YouTubers. because they were my role models. They were people who were, so I'd watch loads of lads who were in the gym. And that was my outlet for role models, because I didn't know, like, even now for kids now, there's loads of players with channels and loads of documentaries going behind the scenes. Like, it's so much bigger. Whereas 10 years ago, like, there wasn't any. You might get a highlights vid of Quade Cooper or Sonny Bill Williams doing a few tackles and a few steps, but there's no behind the scenes. So the only behind the scenes stuff in terms of disciplined individuals were YouTubers and fitness YouTubers. So that's what I watch. But back to yourself, like, in terms of searching for that role model, do you feel like that's been a continued search or a journey, or what was that like growing up for you?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, the way to break it down. Like, it's so important for kids to have role models, maybe their dad or, you know, an athlete or whatever it is. I think on the other side, like, role models and goals, they guide us, you know, like, if your goal is to play that, so play professional sports or be a businessman, whatever it is, that's going to guide you to what you want to do. And then along the way, a role model, he does that. And these days, I think with the content that's pushed out, there's like, Sonny Bill's got a podcast now, so all these guys, all the content's everywhere. You can sort of listen to how their mindset works, which is Matt, or podcasts all over the world, that all these high performance podcasts, you know. So it's so cool these days for kids coming through, people like yourself, to on these platforms, that kind of stuff. But as me growing up, I think, yeah, it was so important, because, to be honest, there wasn't anyone close to me that I was like, I want that life, you know, or like I had so many. I was so lucky to have so many people that weren't in my family like look out for me at certain points, and without that guidance, I don't know where I would have been. But they were, yeah. On the role model sense, I think athletes were that for me. Like, I love watching Sam play. I love watching even like, it was like Darren Lockyer back in the day. So I was like, that was what all I wanted to do, was play football. So that was the goal, and that was the North Star. And everything, if I go this way, I'd feel that shift taking me away from, oh no, that's not the path I need to be on. Like, so that pulled me back. So that was like my goals and aspirations pulled me out of like my life that I could have possibly lived. And then I was like, through football, through that goal I was chasing, through that, I met so many people that are so well regimented. Like, I met professionals, you know, that you wouldn't see in normal life, like in that football world. This is how they've got there, and you watch them, you know, you take a few things out of here, and oh, that guy's always doing this, I might try and do this. And then in that conversation, they're talking about diet, they're talking about things that people like don't really get access to or care enough about. But that's the gift of, like, I don't know, for me, chasing football. You meet those people. Then I played with Sam. I was like, mate, this is crazy. And I learned so much from him in 12 months. He only played for 12 months. I learned so much in 1 year that I still try and take in my life now. So like, I feel lucky in that sense. It was crazy.
Insane. What do you think the biggest lesson from playing with Sam Burgess was?
Ooh, that's a good question. Far out. The biggest lesson.
Or one that really stuck with you. It doesn't have to be the biggest one.
Yeah, one that really stuck was Sammy. I think training habits, like building habits. He was always on me about, and I was a young kid. I didn't know what he was talking about at the start. Like, what are you talking about, mate? Like, no, it's all about habits, mate. It's all about habits. Like, you got to do this. I'm like, nah, that's all right. And like, just watching like training habits away from footy, like what you do. It's what you do away from footy that's going to be, you know, affect you more. Like drinking on a weekend, short turnaround. When you're young, you know, you want to have a good time. He's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? Like, so I think building habits, like, in every aspect of life, I think that was the biggest thing I took away. Like, we used to do this after training, like just 10 play the balls on the ground, just like by yourself. I'm like, why are we doing it? Just drum it in, just all these little things in life, just to keep drumming in good habits.
For sure. And the way you do anything, it's the way you do everything.
Yeah.
You know, the way you do everything is the way you do anything. Yeah. Do you know? So like, it's winning when no one's watching, isn't it? Really, it's winning when no one's watching, because at the end of the day, it's not what you do when the spotlight's on you. No. It's not what you do when everyone's out training to go make sure that you do it. Do you know what I mean? To make sure that you're doing your pre-ab and everyone's watching you and everyone's doing it. It's easy to turn up then. It's what you do when you're in the kitchen by yourself, and you could easily go into the cupboard or pop down to the shop and have 10 bags of crisps or 10 chocolate bars. Do you know what I mean? They're the wins that you need to turn up for yourself every day.
I think they broke it down for us at footy. A game of footy is 80 minutes, but in the week there's like 10,000 minutes or something like that. Something crazy, and like or 4,000 minutes or whatever it is. Obviously the math's not exactly cooperating for me this morning, but this 80 minutes is such a small part. This 4,000 minutes or whatever it was, like that's where everything's going to come into this 80 minutes. So like the 1%ers and all these things you hear about. So what you do in the dark is going to come to the light on game day. So like, make sure you make the most of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And off the back of those lessons, what does a typical day look like for you now?
These days?
What does these days look like for you now?
I think these days are a bit different. I think when I was, I've sort of learned a little bit the importance of recovery. And when I was younger, on a day off, I needed extra weight, I need to train more or whatever it was, and do this and do that. Now it's like I'm a bit older now, you know. I got to sit back and relax and unwind. I think we're going to go for a sauna this Savo. So in the day off, I'll try and get up early. I always go for a walk, 5K walk, just slow pace, get out in the sun, get some serotonin bumping through the brain. And,
you know it.
Yeah, getting all that among. Get a coffee with the boys, socialising and laugh. Just really unwind, sauna, maybe a bit of recovery weights or Pilates. I got Pilates this Savo, to be honest.
Yeah?
Later this Savo, yeah.
Keen for a bit of that?
Yeah, obviously training days, they're all taken care of. But I like reading, just keeping your mind active and just filling your cup up, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And what I always say, and what I love the frame is, you want as many days as possible to look like your perfect day. And do you want to do more of the things that make a good day a great day, and less of the things that take away from your cup, like you said?
What's your perfect day?
Pretty much, honestly, my perfect day is, I think the one thing that we don't have here is the sea. So my perfect day is just like that. Get up, go do some sort of activity. So whether that's like if we're not training, if I'm in off season, I'll train in the gym or do like a hike, go for a run, just get the heart rate up. If I'm obviously in season, it's more of a chill, like a little stroll into town, walk, coffee, sauna, sea. I love the sea. I like a sea swim. And you know what might sound mad, but I love the sea in Ireland sometimes more than I do in a hot country because it's freezing cold. But then afterwards, like you just get that, like you get that serotonin rush. You feel absolutely euphoric. You jump out to sea, smacking the blends. I love smacking blends. That's my favourite thing to do on earth. Like the
bean water. I've never heard anyone call it bean water, and I've heard it about 30 times since I met you. You got to get a bean water.
You got to get the bean water in. Honestly, get the bean water in. No, real message. So like, I love that. Like that's my favorite thing to do. And then like just a mad feed. That's my dream. That's my dream day. And like I think that I've known that that's what I want my life to look like since a young lad. I didn't know the route. Of how I was going to make my days look like that. I knew I had to involve training, eating well, smacking coffees, and hanging out with good people. And like footy has been the outlet, rugby league has been the outlet for me to do that. But I didn't know how I was going to do it as a 16-year-old. I was lost. Like I didn't have a deal. I didn't come through a system. I wasn't even playing rugby at one stage when I was on foot in my fourth year out. But I just knew that I wanted my day to look like that. And to be honest, at one stage in my life, I thought it was going to be just doing like fitness. I didn't think it was going to be rugby. I thought the rugby door shut on me completely. But I knew I wanted to be surrounded by like-minded people in a positive environment, smacking blends, because that's all, like I've been addicted to coffee since I was about 14, 6. Yeah, mother had it in the bottle. Nah, I reckon I've been sipping it since I was about since young. But the mother
14. I don't think I had my first coffee until I was 18 or something, 19.
So I'll tell you this, right. So when I was in school, so the mother always drank decent enough coffee. Like she's not got a machine like myself, but it was never like Tesco shite coffee. It was always like some decent.
Costa.
No, not even Costa. She had like some nice beans, the instant or a coffee press, growing up. So once I figured out what these magic bean water did, so initially it wasn't the taste, it was the outcome. It was the exchange of you sip the bean water and you get X outcome, euphoric. So as a kid, this might sound mad. So my locker in school, I had all my books, obviously a maths, English, history book, and I had the little granules of coffee. And in between, like on my little lunch and my big lunch, I just wang a load of that into me gob and just swish it around with water and then crack on. Coffee breath stinking, you know what I mean? No wonder I didn't have a girlfriend in school.
Instant coffee.
Teeth going yellow and that popcorn teeth, you know what I mean? But I'd be wanging it in my mouth, and then I'd be off to class and I'd be buzzing, like I'd be, but that was 14, 15 years old, and then obviously it's developed into the situation that we're in now. But
to touch on your last point, I think it was so cool, like when you say like you didn't know how you were going to get there, you just that's what you wanted, but like I don't know how, you didn't understand how to get there, but you aimed at this, and then you open your mind to the possibility, like, and give yourself permission, like, that's the life I want to live. How am I going to do it? Then every day you're sort of thinking about how you're going to get there. Like, as a professional kid, I think like I watch so many people where you're like, they don't know how to be professional. I didn't know how to be professional. You're like, oh, but then you start thinking, what would a professional athlete do? Or what would a professional podcaster do? Then you watch people that do it and you're like, oh, this is what they do. This is what I got to do every day. Okay, I want to go better than that. So like, I want to get here. So how do I keep doing these things to get you there? But if you don't have that goal or that vision, your mind's closed to it completely, and then you have no idea how to even try and get there, like put the steps in place. So I think that's such an important part of like, you know, you have these goals, you're like every day, you start thinking, how will that happen? And then like, not going to happen overnight, but every day you start having like a mindset of like, oh yeah, I got to do this today, got to do this today, keep doing this. And then it gets a little bit clearer, and then you keep thinking, and I think you keep aiming at the same thing. It's the most important thing I think as humans, especially males, have purpose and have a vision.
For sure. I think that is so important. And there's a couple absolute gems that I want to touch on there. Firstly, it's you may not know what road it is you're going to take or how you're going to get there, but you need to have that idea, and you need to have that arrogant self-belief, in which I had, that I was going to do something and I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing is you need to be ready for an opportunity that you don't know you're going to have, and you don't know what it's going to be. So for me, that was, I needed to be in the best physical shape possible.
That's a minimum. That's a start.
Minimum, so that in this mad hell situation that I didn't know, the door that wasn't open, that didn't exist 6 months prior, that I got a trial at Super League Academy that no kid from Ireland ever did before, I needed to be physically ready to turn up on day one and kill it, not turn up a fat mess who's another kid who's come on trial and then see you later, who's a story in the pub back home, talking to the people back home saying
coulda, shoulda,
woulda. Exactly. Same for yourself. You asked yourself, what would a professional do in this situation prior to coming to Hull? So you kept turning up for yourself. You're working with an elite sprint coach in Roger Fabry. You're turning up for yourself. You're training before work, you're training after work. You're doing those things. So you go, put it into that frame. What would a professional rugby player do who was out of contract? And that's what you did for yourself. So if anyone's listening to this and they are needing some form of guidance, or they're going, whatever it is you want to do, what would a professional photographer do? What would a professional singer do? What would a professional cook or chef do to make sure that when an opportunity arises, they are ready? I think a great example of this, a friend of mine just got a really, really good job. He's doing AI integration, massive computer job. But for the last 6 months, Jamie, if you're listening,
come shout a coffee, brother.
You know what I mean? Coffee's on you. Massive job, yeah? But he rocked up to that. For the last 6 months, he's been pretty much unemployed and just doing, like, building stuff with AI. We're like completely out of my depth in terms of understanding of that. But that's him. And then he rocked up to the interview, showed them the portfolio. This is what I've been up to for the last 6 months. Boom. You turn up to Hull FC, you're running a Bronco, obviously, day one. If you were out of shape, it would have been a quick fly home.
I wouldn't have been playing the next. That's what I think. The test was like, the coach goes to me, "Well, see what you go, see how you go, and then obviously see how many weeks we have to try and work and see how long I can play." I think I was sub 5 on that, and they go, "Oh, we'll play you next week." If I got like a 5:20, like, oh, I'll probably have to get 2 weeks training, and then I don't know. I just felt like the energy would have been different. Like, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. I'd be annoyed. Yeah, your confidence is lower. It's all I think about what you're doing every day. Like, it's all about giving yourself confidence. Like, if you're not ready. If I got there, I'm like, yeah, I've been training. Obviously, if I haven't been training, I'd go into the game, I'd be worried, I'd be stressing, I'd be, oh man, I can't do this. But like, if you got the work behind you, like, that's where you get your confidence. I think that's the biggest thing you learn. Like, if you're not training well, you're not training hard or training at all, you're gonna have doubts. That's when doubts come in. But like, if you look back at all the work you've done, that's where your confidence comes in today's moment. So like, if you have, you're just gonna keep putting yourself and putting that behind you, so you know you're ready when it comes to fruition.
Exactly. And another two things that I love is, imagine film crews filming your entire life. What would you do? I love that. That Joe Rogan talks about that. Yeah, he talks about that. Joe Rogan mentioned
like someone's following you around with a camera.
Following you around with a camera. And to be honest, that's my dream. I'd love that. I'd love for someone to follow me around with a camera all day. That's like, I'd love to do that. But at the same time, why are you not doing it when there's no camera? Because you'll know. Yeah. You will always know when it comes to game day. Only you'll know if you decided to have half a bottle of wine on a Wednesday night, or if you decided to have 3 Five Guys burgers 2 days out from the game. You'll know. No one in the changing rooms will know. But like, and listen, there's always exceptions. There's always someone who can do that and still absolutely light the world on fire. But it's trying not to be that person. And some people you're not an outlier. You may believe that you're an outlier, but the majority of people are not outliers. The majority of people are on the middle of that bell curve where you have to turn up for yourself, get enough night's sleep, do all the right things in order to make sure that you sit in the sheds an hour before kickoff and you go, I've had a mint week.
Yeah.
And
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. I've done the right thing because you'll know.
100%.
Absolutely. I think that's so key. In terms of like, obviously we're talking on this platform now. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. I found out 15 minutes before recording this that this man sat next to me is an ex-podcast host. Tell us a little bit about that line of field and life away from footy. What are other pastimes?
Yeah, I think when I said to before, I got to a certain age, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do after footy? I think I was after my knee reco. When you're out of the bubble, when you're out of the whole routine of footy, and like I don't have a degree, I didn't finish school. I was full-time football at about 20 years old, so that was all I knew. And you don't, and that's when you're young. I think I was so focused on that, which is probably why I was successful at that age. But with that, obviously, the cost of that is, you don't get all the other life skills and all this other stuff you need outside of footy because, unfortunately, you can't play footy forever. But I get to that age and I start thinking, like, I had anxiety about, like, what happens next. But, and I didn't handle that too well. I think, like, with my knee injury brought about, like a lot of bad habits and I spiraled a bit, partying, escaping, all that kind of stuff. And then I came to a point where I was thinking, like, same thing as like, got there again. I get the same point, like no one's coming to save you. I've got to figure some stuff out. Then I did the podcast after that because I hit a real low point and I think I wanted to use my experiences and my platform with a friend of mine, just talk to people about what's your point of life where what's the biggest lesson in life from from going through hard times. So that's obviously we learn the most about each other, ourselves. When we go through hard times, we find out who we are and what we want and what we need. So that's why we started the podcast. What was it called? It was called Stuck in the Middle because we were in the middle of the field and then stuck in the middle of life. And it was actually a lot of fun. But we're talking about adversity. We had a lot of laughs and adversity, how we overcome adversity, what we learn about yourselves and that kind of stuff. We had some cool guests on. I can't remember why we stopped. I think it just got a bit much. Football sort of was a bit. I think football took over a little bit there, but yeah, it was fun.
Hey, it's savage, and I think one thing you touched on there, the best spot to build a foundation from sometimes is rock bottom. It's going to that really dark place, isn't it? It's coming off the back of a surgery, off the back of a letdown, off the back of losing a contract, off the back of getting moved on. That's the best place to build and going through that adversity. And I think that for yourself, like by the sounds of it, your career has been built on that adversity. What are the lessons from coming through all of that, and how would you navigate it better if you had your time again? You're walking your same path. You're going through that adversity because we all need to go through that.
Yeah.
No matter, and I think another thing for people, if you think that you've walked the path right, that's in my opinion, that's absolute arrogance. Because I still reflect on my career, and I would like to consider myself a disciplined, professional individual. I still look back and go, I could have been better.
100%.
So that's arrogance. But if you're walking your through your path again, through your journey,
it's a complete lack of self-awareness and ego. If you think you've done everything right, there's no way. No one can ever do everything right. But exactly. If you reflect on the ones that I could have done that better. I did that well as well. Like, look at yourself. I've done that well, but I could have done that better. There's so many things I could have done. There's way more things I could have done better than ones of the things I did well. And I think as humans, we look at the things, or we should look at the things we didn't do well, so then we can make it better next time and just continually try and be better. It's a really good question. What I'd probably do differently. I think at the time, when my big injuries and all this like other stuff, that like, I think as men, I think we're really prone to try and push things away and sugarcoat shit. Like, oh, no, I'm all good. You don't want to talk about your problems because, I'm a man. I can't speak up. And then from that, you internalize it all and you spiral and you spiral and your thoughts become worse thoughts. And if you don't, I think just talking about things, like I think I started seeing a therapist after a while, but at the start, like, no, I'm all good. And then, so you think you're doing the right thing by not burdening other people, or I can't talk to anyone else. And then you start maybe drinking or whatever it is, you start avoiding, and then it gets worse and worse. And then you spiral and you spiral and spiral. But if you just at the start, like, own your shit, like, I'm actually struggling, like, go and see someone, talk to someone about it. Like, I just think that's the only way. Like, otherwise, you might always, everything on the back of that, like, people, they think that they go have a massive night, oh, I feel better. Why? Like, why would you have to do that? Write yourself off, poison your body just to get something off your chest. You could have done it. So if you're man enough, like, I think it's more manly, like, to sit down and say to someone, I'm really struggling, like, I need help.
Sure.
Put my hand up earlier, because I got to that point eventually, but after 3 months of like destroying myself. But if I did that at the start, I would have been able, build solutions, build better habits, coping mechanisms, all this other stuff, to not put yourself through that shit. because you're going to get there eventually. Why would you just bypass that and be like, oh, I'm struggling?
For sure. And what's that journey been like? Obviously, opening up. You said you did a bit of therapy, opening up and being vulnerable and being willing to say, like, I'm struggling with a few bits here. I have a few bits on my head right now. What's that journey been like in terms of overcoming that? And obviously the pressures as well of being a professional athlete. Like, you're meant to, we probably feel at times that we're meant to have our shit together. Whereas sometimes, at times, us as individuals probably are the least balanced people.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? We're trying to be elite performers. We're putting extreme amount of pressure on ourselves. We're trying to optimize every area of our life to sometimes it just goes bang. Sometimes, like you said, and we've all been there where we've just gone blind to forget about it. You know, we just decided to send it on the drink and
train your way. We can train your way through it too.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you feel like shit, or you feel like this and that. I'm just gonna go train.
Yeah.
I think all the things that were happening in my body were signals somehow, just to like, my body was like, I can't do it. You know, like my knee was a bit of a, I got cannonballed by a winger, so I don't know if that was a message, but I don't know. I'm such a big believer in everything happens for a reason. All these things I went through, like all these things that stopped me from trying, my coping mechanism would either drink or train. And I couldn't do either of those at some point. So I'm like, it pushed me to like, well, this is the alternative. What am I going to do? I'm like, I can't sit with myself. What's going to happen? Like, oh, fuck, I'm going insane.
Yeah.
So I was forced into that. But like I said, if I just at the start changed that, there's all signs of my body breaking down and head knocks, all these things were just happening. So I was pushed into a corner. Like, what are you going to do? Like, when you're backed into a corner, you got to figure out a way to get out. That's the only way I could think of. Otherwise, I was going insane. Like,
yeah, for sure. And I think that we've all been there in the point where we're thinking, like, where am I going from here? Where am I? A couple bad injuries. You've been training the gaff down, and that's not working. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes more is not more.
No.
Like sometimes, like it might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes more training is actually not what you need, and you need to actually look at yourself and your life as a whole, because those hour blocks of training aren't the only thing that could be potential. And I'm a believer. Like I agree with you. Everything happens for a reason, but I also believe that our body can't identify what's physical stress and what's like internal stress, what's mental stress. It can't differ. Stress is stress to the body.
Nervous system is just stressed out. Like something's going to break. You know, like you see people with all these soft tissue injuries. It's like, oh, what's going on? There's something, I don't know. It's a massive. I think there's definitely a connection to studies being printed now. Like your nervous system's a wreck. Things are just going to break.
Yeah,
anywhere and everywhere.
There's no simple solution other than you need to identify the lifestyle factors that are having an impact on what you're doing as an athlete. Because what we do off the field is just as important as what we're doing on the field, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Being able to wind down,
and that's something that for me has been the biggest struggle, and I still struggle with that now. Is switching off.
You're 100 miles an hour. You remind me of what I was when I was 25. I couldn't sit still. Like a day's off. I just got to go. I got to go do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to train. I got to do this. I got to do that. Now I'm like, just relax.
Yeah. And it takes a while to get that right in your career, and I'm getting better at it. Yeah. I'm getting better at it. Like when I first came over, like you said, when I first came over here, on my days off, I was doing like 3K runs. Do you know, like on the treadmill, like just 5Ks on the treadmill, doing like smashing deadlifts and squats on my days off. Do you know, like what planet was I on there, you know?
And the energy starts here, and then like you get slower and slow, like, and then the training's hard as well. So you get the training, you're a bit more tired, maybe more irritable, and you're not training as well, but like, I can't stop, got to keep training hard. And then you get to a point, bang, injury, or fuck it, I don't know, you're just exhausted.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And final thing I wanted to touch on, obviously you've decided to give up the drink now.
Yeah.
How long are you off it now?
Well, this time around, I'm about 2 months. I did 2 years, and then I thought, I went to Europe last year, I have a few beers, and I just, that extended for a longer period than I would have liked, and I just think it just takes too much away from my life, and I don't need to drink to have fun, so I gave that up again 2 months ago, and I won't drink again. I just think, there's some people in the world that shouldn't drink, and I'm one of them. I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me. It takes a lot more away than it gives me. I can still socialise and have fun and see my mates and do whatever I need to do without alcohol. So I just feel like I take that away, and it doesn't really affect me that much.
And do you feel better for it?
Yeah, for sure.
For someone who would, you think, maybe listen to this and may struggle with drinking, who wants to give it up, what would you say to them?
I don't know. Think about, like, what is it actually giving you? What do you need a drink for? Like, I think a lot of people, they want to socialise. So, like, if you can still socialise sober, you don't have to go out until 4 a.m. in the morning and drink 1,000 beers to socialise. What do you really need? What are you really searching for? Ask yourself some deeper questions about, like, why do you think you can't give it up? What do you think it's doing for you? What's it covering up? What's it giving you? What's it taking from you? They're the questions I ask myself. Like, That's all it comes down to. Like it takes more than if it takes more than you give, it's pretty easy trade off. Like that's how I got to it anyway.
For sure. I think I've done a couple of long spells of sobriety. Not as long as 2 years, but I always feel good on the back of it. I think it's
You get more done.
You get more done. I feel like off the field, my business, my personal training business always flows better when I've not been on the drink, and I don't drink often. I don't drink often anymore. I've come to the stage, like you said, the give and take of it's not worth it. You're poisoning your body. You get filled with inflammation after it for like a couple of days afterwards. And I think it's something that I've toyed with, and I think that I can enjoy a few and not obliterate myself to the point that I like it socially and occasionally, and it's good as a young man. But I do feel like more people are becoming aware of it, and especially in our game. I feel like it's getting so much quicker. People are getting more athletic. Like it's not like what it used to. Even when I was coming through 7 years ago at Huddersfield, it's changed a lot since then. Like drinking cultures and things like that.
Yeah.
Where we're like, I feel like looking now, like there's less team dudes, less nights out, less boys coming in after every game on the weekends. Geez, I had another big weekend. I feel like it's changing massively because the games, one, people are getting more athletic, and two, people are realising what it does to yourself, the damage it does.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it's a fun time. I've had about 1,000 fun nights, like, and it's obviously a good time. It's the best. But when you realise, like, nothing really changes. Like, you know what I mean? It's always similar. Like, you're gonna go to a different location and you see different people, but it doesn't change that much. Like for me, like someone said to me, why don't you just try get off it and see what happens? Like the pubs aren't going to close. Like they're never going to close. Nothing's going to change. Like I did 2 years off the piss, and when I started drinking again, nothing changed. I was the same person on it, and things were the same. You do the same stuff, and it's the same laughs. But like, you know, if you're around the right people, you can do the same stuff sober. Like we can go hang out, have a coffee, with laugh all day. Like it's the same thing you can do when you're drinking, but the next day you don't wake up with a hangover and you haven't spent £300.
Yeah, exactly. It's not near as detrimental. You're not sat there black dog back and thinking,
oh, what have I done last night? People saying, oh, did you do this? And you're like, don't remember, and all these random photos, whatever comes out of it. Yeah, so like that's the only thing I'd say to someone if they want to try and stop drinking.
Yeah, for sure. Liam Knight, that was a serious message, my man. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers, brother. Thanks, heaps.